Hi, very warm welcome. It's Jane from maverickstar Observatory. Good afternoon to you. Guys, we are up against, something today more than we ever have been at any other time. And, if we look at the history of censorship, we will find the last historical shocking event was what took place in the 1930s, when the Germans was going round collecting books and seizing literature and controlling the narrative with regards to the published news, and were there today. And they are definitely going out punishing people and making it very difficult for people to live. If you have any political exposure out there on social media, you're going to find yourself being part of a case file dumped on someone's desk, and they're going to be a task force which is going to set out in a very cowardly way, because that person will never tell you personally what they're doing behind your back. But I'll just explain this. I'll just mention a few cases recently. Nigel Farage was very outspoken about a few topics, and according to his human rights, he's well within his rights to talk about any subject with any person he wants to share those ideas and thoughts with, and talk about these matters with who he wants. But he's been kicked out of his bank, and he's finding it very difficult to get himself another bank here in the UK. And he's one of 90,000 classified political exposed people now that are finding themselves in the same situation. Now, if you don't have a bank account, how very difficult that is to participate in today's modern society. Some shops will not accept cash now, believe it or not. I know that there are a few that would prefer just cash and not use the card because of the cost of the merchant moving of that money via electronic means. So for that reason, if they're a small entity business, they'll prefer cash. But the thing is, if you start taking piles of cash into your bank now to put into your bank to pay your bills, you might find yourself being one of these people that are going to be classified as politically exposed, and the bank is just going to throw you out. They don't want you using cash anymore. And Nigel Farage is just one example. All he's got is political viewpoints, and he is outspoken on climate as well. It seems to be that the climate is the real hot spot that they don't like people talking about, or in particular the truth about CO2, like what you can see here on the screen. Jordan Peterson spoke out about Justin Trudeau in Canada, and how he'd angled the truckers protest. And I watched him talking to the woman that organised that. A few of them found themselves in prison, when, again, under our human rights, we have the right to protest, because they say that we live in a democracy. Now, you can say, Gene, you know very well what the real truth of the situation is, and exactly what freedoms we do have. But I'm just saying that they tell us we live in a democracy. There are laws in place which are supposed to protect us, and they're getting broken and they're getting bent. And I was listening to also Gerald Salenti and Judge Napolitano, if I've pronounced his name right, two very intelligent guys, and they was talking about how the CIA were infringing on the Bill of Rights, the protected rights of Americans, and how they see from their viewpoint how they can go about infringing on those, because they see themselves as they have a right to do that. Dutchy Sense was another one, a YouTuber. You guys know, if you know Dutchy Sense, you know exactly what he does. I don't need to explain that, but he has had apparently computers removed from his property. David Devine has had some strange experiencing with people pulling up on his drive that he just had a good feeling that they was there just to snoop. And of course, I've had my fair share of disfavourable treatment because of these videos that I produce on air and the information which we give on three main events: the Grand Solar Minimum, the Magnetic Pole Reversal, and the returning back to the glacial period. Three events, or three anomalies, that the media won't even touch, yet massively impact the climate a lot more than what CO2 does. The reason why I've showed you this diagram of CO2, this is what we done back in 2021, so that we could give people a clear understanding as to how much impact we have on the reservoir in our atmosphere with CO2. And you can see that the naturally occurring CO2 is way more abundant than the actual amount that mankind is responsible for. You can see that man is responsible for 0.012% of the amount of CO2 in our atmosphere, and the naturally occurring CO2 is 999.988%. So almost 100% of the CO2 that makes up just 0.04% in our atmosphere is naturally occurring. We put, even in this day and age, with all the cars that we drive around in, a minuscule amount. It totals at a very, very little amount. And yet this is the precipice of what they are using to justify raising £500 billion towards climate change. The other day in Africa, they held the climate conference, and even the poorest countries are prepared to chip in their proportion of this total amount that will amount from all the countries that are participating in this, that £500 billion each year, which will be spent on renewables. So if you own a company manufacturing wind turbines and solar panels and solar generated electricity, you're going to find yourself in this little cosy club where you're going to get all that funding. Now, think about this. We don't even get £100 off the British government, not even £100 support. Yet we are talking about three major anomalies which in truth are more important than what they're using to raise this money, and we get nothing back from it. In fact, we have to rely on, just the private individual that knows a little bit about what we do and have an added interest in that, enough to want to chip in a few bucks. And it's not a lot that we raise here. I can't afford to buy premises for the observatory. I had to utilise my own home to do that. And I certainly can't afford to pay people to work for the observatory, because we don't even earn enough almost to cover one person's salary a month. And in this current climate, it's getting much worse. So I know that this money that they're raising is being distributed between their cosy friends and clubs, but we're not part of it. Yet, this is the true justice and evidence of the times that we live in. If you do the right thing, you will come under scrutiny and be punished. And if you do the right thing, you will definitely not get support for it. It's just, the whole thing is hypocritical and totally unfair. And there is a very little lack of motivation by the general public now to actually want to do something, and it's rare. if a few people want to support like they do with us. But what will inevitably happen is the truth that we share with you guys with regards to the real reasons of climate change is going to diminish over the years to come. And if they keep going out after us, making our lives very difficult because we're not singing off the same hymn sheet of them as them, we are going to be pushed out of even the social media platforms, and there is an entity out there which is doing just that. Jordan Peterson is struggling to keep his practicing licence because of his outspoken reviews. Nigel Farage is struggling, because he's finding it very difficult to put his money into a bank so that he can participate in this very electronic era that we're in with regards to the way money gets transferred. It's happening to they are doing it. I mean, if you listen to what Justin Trudeau said during the truckers' protest, he said, "We have got their money." They seized the money that was raised. I think it was around about £10 million in total, and they seized it to stop the support taking place for the truckers' protest. The reason why the truckers were protesting is clearly, as you already know, guys, they was protesting because of COVID laws and facilities being deliberately closed that was threatening the livelihoods of these people that for years had been paying their bills with the the method of transporting stuff via freight on trucks, and it was all of a sudden just switched off. People lost their homes, and people couldn't cross the border without quarantining for 14 days. You cannot run a business model like that. And that was why there was protesting, because their livelihoods, their families were suffering, and they were under great pressure caused by these policies. And you know what? We're supposed to have freedoms and rights that allow us to do such things. When they stop protest, we no longer live in a democracy. So today, we live in a very limited democracy. They want to keep saying, "Oh, we're supporting democracy, but they're taking it away, and they're finding ways to do it. And anyone that speaks out against what they're doing and how they're doing it is going to come under massive attack." I switched on the news yesterday, and to the shock, I saw that Birmingham City Council, which is the second largest city in England, had declared itself bankrupt. And it stated that it was going to legally continue with only its legal requirements at the moment, so I don't know exactly what that means. But can you see that this is crazy? This is the local authorities, and they're declaring bankruptcy. And yet we can find £100 billion to spend on climate change. And this, I guess, is what frustrates a lot of people around the world. We can find millions and millions of pounds to give away in arms to the Ukraine so that they can go and fight their war with Russia. It just where are the sensible decisions being made right now? And where are the people that are actually serving the general public, that claim to be public servants that work for these authorities? Where are they? And I could find 1,000 reasons why Birmingham Council shouldn't have gone bankrupt. This is a local authority that runs the second largest city in England, and it's had to declare bankruptcy. Why hasn't Richie Sunak bailed them out? If he can bail out, £100 billion towards that 500 billion total that needs to be raised for climate issues, why couldn't he bail out Birmingham Council? If he can find, billions of pounds worth of arms money and funding for the Ukraine. Why couldn't he bail out the second largest city in England? Why couldn't he do that? This is what we're having to put up with. This is a worldwide problem. And, I always say this. We can't just sit back and let this happen. Because this is the first step that led, back in the 1930s, up to people being carted off in trucks and sent to Auschwitz in Poland, to the death camps. We are already seeing that psychopathic behaviour of going out for people, good people, just because they got different viewpoints to theirs. But this is not a law that's being broken, yet people are finding themselves in prison for doing it. And they're finding that, their livelihoods are being shut down and their total life afterwards is finished and destroyed. And that is the price for doing the right thing. Shameful, if you ask me. Absolutely shameful. But these are the times we live in. And that's why, I will keep fighting for that truth and showing you people the truth with scientific evidence so that you can see firsthand me calling them out on their lies. Guys, there is a link down there, and it'd be great if we could get a few more people to start supporting us, especially in this current climate that we're in. So there's a link down there if you want to help support us. And the only other thing for me to say is, be careful out there. And, you should be standing behind the people that are, at the front line, working hard, to try and protect some of these freedoms for you guys and deliver the truth. So, as always, take care of your loved ones. Bye for now.